Hey everyone, hope you're having an amazing day. It's Tom. Today's episode name is the most mysterious skulls found on Earth. Skull from Rhoda. The skull was found by 38-year-old Roman Genchev, a resident of Plovdiv, Bulgaria. Realistic dreams forced a 38-year-old man to go looking for this artifact. In his dreams, Roman saw 5 men in unusual silver robes that showed the exact location of the find. In search of the skull, the locals went with his wife and friend. An object of unknown origin was found not far from the buried skull. It was a metal fragment of an ellipsoidal form weighing more than 800 grams. The skull weighs about 250 grams and has 6 holes in it, which probably belong to the senses. The skull also has no mouth, and the space for the brain is greatly enlarged. He found the skull in the Rhodope Mountains in Bulgaria, Bulgarian Rhodope, located somewhere between Arden and Maidan, about 200 kilometers south of the country's capital Sofia. Initially, he presented his finding to a close circle of people interested in the paranormal phenomenon, but the skull did not remain secret for long. Researchers gathered in Asanovgrad in the province of Plovdiv in southern Bulgaria to discuss a rare find, including Professor Yordan Yordanov, one of the most famous in Europe, who said he has never seen a human or animal skull in his life. Anthropologist Melamed Katya, one of the archaeologists and a member of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, also said, "I have never seen anything like it before." She then examined the skull in detail with Professor Dimitar Kovachev, director of the Asanovgrad Paleontological Museum. Dimitar Kovachev said that it is not a fossil and does not resemble any hominid skull known to science. "We haven't found any analogy or resemblance to anything from the last 30 million years. The skull is the size of a human child, but its bone structure is lighter and thinner and weighs only 250 grams. It has 6 cavities that scientists think belong to extraterrestrial sense organs. When being was alive, the creature had 6 eyes or perhaps other completely unknown organs. Interestingly, it has no mouth opening where we would expect us to find it. But since this is obviously not a human being, this is not surprising." The initial examination was performed on the skull. The DNA test showed that it did not correspond to any known species on Earth. X-rays showed that the skull probably contained a brain, and there were no seams anywhere in the skull, and that it was thick with blood vessels. There are miniature holes on the surface, such as pores. Scientists think that these units have something to do with protecting the bone from high pressure, and also there are traces of bone crystallization. Photomicrographs were taken from the surface and from a sample taken from the back of the skull. Investigations of the found artifact ended for unknown reasons in 2002. Scientists found no evidence of the terrestrial origin of the skull. The Rhodopan skull is one of the few known artifacts whose extraterrestrial origin is not a source of doubt among scientists from different countries. However, to whom or what the skull belonged is speculated. It can be the already mentioned alien skull, or the skull of a demonic being, and a creature from the time before the biblical flood of the world is also a possibility. Roman Genchev owns a unique artifact and does not want to sell it at any cost. He was reportedly offered huge sums for the sale of the skull immediately after its history was published in the mass media. Another similar finding by 2 skulls from Russia compares to this finding. I created a separate video about this find a year ago, and I really recommend watching the video after watching this. The video is called Demon Skulls Found in Russia. This video will be soon here on channel. Skulls from Paracas. In Peru, 3,000-year-old elongated skulls with extremely huge foreheads have been discovered. These skulls were discovered in 1928 on the desert peninsula of Paracas, located on the south coast of Peru, by indigenous archaeologist Julio Tello. Tello found more than 300 strange skeletal remains in a complex grave system. According to scientists, this was the most extreme example of elongated skulls ever recorded. Proponents of conspiracy theories and enthusiasts for aliens believe that these skulls are evidence of the visit of ancient aliens to our planet. In an effort to shed some light on this mystery, Brian Forster and the director of the PaPal Museum of History had a series of DNA tests performed to determine if they belonged to an alien race. Brian Forster originally thought that these skulls would not fit into a known evolutionary tree. Samples of fragments of skin, hair, teeth and bones were sent to a genetic laboratory for analysis, and the results were amazing. As it turned out, the skulls belonged to a very distant relative of Homo sapiens. Although the skulls are probably of human origin, mitochondrial DNA from the mother has shown mutations unknown to any human, primate or other animal. The mutations suggested that we were dealing with a completely new human-like creature, perhaps very distant from Homo sapiens, Neanderthals or Denist, Tello said in 2015, referring to earlier DNA tests on skulls. Skeptics think that these skulls are just another example of the deliberate deformation of the skull that has been observed in many ancient South American tribes. Brian Forster said that the skulls from PaPal have similar DNA to other elongated skulls found between the Black and Caspian Seas. What is very interesting, however, is the finding that the elongation of skulls from PaPal was not caused by artificial deformation of the skull, as skeptics think, but by genetics, because the skull volume of some elongated skulls is up to 25% larger and 60% heavier than ordinary human skulls. The skulls could not be intentionally deformed by flattening or tying the head, because deforming the skull can change its shape, but it does not change its volume and weight. Forster said this during his speech at the Los Angeles Skull Symposium. But what it certainly shows is that people with an extended skull from PaPal were not 100% Indians. They were a mixture, or you could even say, in a sense, a hybrid of different people. Their blood types are also very complicated. They should have blood group O for 100% Indians, but that's not the case. It seems to be DNA from Eastern Europe and Western Asia. More specifically, from the area between the Black and Caspian Seas, where ancient people with elongated skulls probably lived. This finding would also confirm that there used to be either one large continent or the possibility of traveling across the ocean. Horned skull. Towards the end of the 19th century, or the beginning of the 20th century, a number of human skeletons were reportedly discovered during an archaeological excavation by a renowned group of archaeologists at the cemetery in Sayre, Pennsylvania. The finding was then to be carried out by the then state historian Dr. Donahue and two visiting professors Skinner and Moorhead digging in the mound. Although finding human remains is relatively common, these skeletons were very strange. First, each of the skeletons was extremely high, and the individuals of all the skeletons found had a height exceeding 2.1 meters. Although it is extremely unusual in itself, it was not the strangest thing about them. Each of the skulls had two horns that grew about 5 centimeters above the eyebrows upwards. The skeletons were immediately sent to the American Investigation Museum in Philadelphia, where they disappeared and were not found. This has led to many conspiracy theories and much speculation as to whether the skeletons found in Sayre belonged to horned giants called Nephilim or aliens and were confiscated by the US government. Although difficult to speculate, people with horns are biologically possible, and there are other better documented cases of such phenomena. For example, the naturalist Caspari Bartolini mentioned in his book a man with a horn over 30 centimeters long, which grew out of his head. Interestingly, many scientific articles that mention the removal of human horns claim that they have often grown back. This suggests that it is a genetically controlled tissue that is encoded in individuals' DNA, probably due to a gene associated with hair and nail tissues, which, of course, grow continuously. The main legitimate theory regarding human horns is that they are made from keratin, the protein that makes up hair and nails, just like the horns of other mammals. Although documented cases of horned people are rare, the mythologies and legends of many cultures are full of stories involving beings with horns. Examples include Satan, who is believed to have horns, and even hooves, a minotaur from Greek mythology, who was a man with a bull's head, and the Celtic god Cernunnos. In history, human horns have been used as a sign of royal majesty. Alexander the Great was depicted with horns on some of his coins. Although there is a photo of a horned being from Sayre, many people claim that this discovery is a hoax. However, this is difficult to confirm and refute because it is not possible without evidence. However, most people admit that governments do not reveal the whole truth from history, and unfortunately, archaeology is also influenced by ruling politics. Thanks for watching this video, and if you like it, please remember to give it thumbs up. Leave comment below, I'd love to read from you, and if you're not subscribed, click subscribe, and also click the little bell icon so you'll immediately get notified of the next video that I publish. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next video.